Mr. Moderator, our next two items of business were extremely similar overtures and significant to the work of our committee. Items 06 and 07 offer proposed additions to the property trust clause within the form of government. Mr. Moderator, on behalf of the committee, I move disapproval of item 0606 and disapproval of item 0607. And with your permission, I would like to speak to our recommendation.
Please go ahead and speak.
To begin with, from a purely practical perspective, passage of either of these overtures would prove highly problematic for the Presbyterian Investment and Loan Program. PILP relies on presbyteries to guarantee loans to congregations, and presbyteries in turn have to be able to trust that they have access to property and assets that can back up those loan guarantees. But more importantly, I want to say this. The church is more than a building. We all know that. But church property, in almost every case, represents the hopes and dreams and sacrifices of generations, sometimes 200 or more years of faithful people who wanted to ensure that there would be a PCUSA presence in their community, not only for themselves in their time, but for all the generations of Presbyterians yet to come. We honor them by honoring the work they have done. Again, Mr. Moderator, on behalf of the committee, I move disapproval of items 0606 and 0607.
All right, those items are properly before the body. There is a motion at microphone 1.
Mr. Moderator, I would like to make a substitute motion to item 0607. You should have that on the board. Jeff Garrison, Presbytery of Lake Michigan. I would like to add in paragraph G 4.0203 the phrase "with the exception as outlined in paragraph B below," and then add a new paragraph G-40203B, freedom of conscience for individual congregations. All property that is under the control of the local session and is being used by an individual congregation shall be deemed to be that individual congregation's property and not to be considered as held in trust for any body other than the local congregation. The individual congregation shall be the sole owner of such property and shall not hold title to such property. Should the congregation vote by a 3/4 majority to seek dismissal from the Presbyterian Church USA into another reformed body, provided that there have been at least 2 congregational meetings with Presbytery representatives prior to the vote, and at the congregational meeting where the vote is received, a quorum of at least 50% of the active congregation members are present, the congregation may depart with its property, provided that all financial obligations to the Presbytery and the Presbyterian Church USA are fulfilled, and obligations dealing with real property for which a council of the Presbyterian Church USA is a guarantor are removed. If there's a second, I would like to speak to it.
Is there a second? It's seconded. Sir, you may proceed.
On Monday, we heard from Brian McLaren, who paraphrased Jesus as he was addressing denominations. I don't think he was just addressing Presbyterians here, saying this: if you seek to save your power, you will lose it. I think that's sound advice. In the 1920s, there was a merger of several Protestant denominations in Canada. Many Presbyterian churches did not want to enter this merger. They wanted to maintain their old identity. This led to decades of court battles over property and, if I remember correctly, even the right to retain the name Presbyterian. Finally, the Presbyterian Church of Canada won, but it was only after much money and energy had been spent, money and energy that could have gone and been used for ministry and mission. It is my hope that we can be more gracious with one another, letting go of the power, letting go of that big stick, and by doing so, it will help reduce the tension that may provide the climate for a future reunion of Presbyterian denominations, something that has happened before in our history, and it is my prayer it will happen again. Please support the substitute motion. Thank you.
Thank you. There's a question at microphone 7.
Mr. Moderator, William Dabney, Twin Cities area. The motion, the substitute motion, refers to a congregational vote to seek dismissal. I do not believe that that is an authority given to the congregation in our form of government. Therefore, is not this motion out of order?
May I call on the representative from the Advisory Committee on the Constitution at microphone 9.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. As to whether the motion is out of order, that is not a matter on which the ACC can comment. That's a matter for you, Mr. Moderator, and for our parliamentarian. However, the Speaker is correct that congregational meetings for the purpose of seeking dismissal are not provided in G 1.0503. The provisions for seeking dismissal usually involve some form of congregational consultation on the part of the presbytery, but the presbytery alone is empowered to dismiss congregations under G 3.0301A. Mr. Moderator.
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Moderator, I might also add that the Advisory Committee on the Constitution has not been consulted about the language on the screen and has not had a chance to prepare advice specific to this matter. We do have general advice on related provisions proposed in the two overtures before you, and that advice can be found in items 0606 and 0607. But we do note that the wording proposed on screen is not identical to the provision or the proposals already in front of you, and we have not had a chance to review it carefully.
Mr. Clerk, before I make a ruling on whether this particular motion is in order, can I hear your advice on this matter?
Mr. Moderator, I would give you a two-part advice. The first part is that we are required by the Constitution to hear the advice of the Advisory Committee on the Constitution. So I would suggest we arrest this one item in the report, go to the next things, and then come back to it to give the ACC time to make advice. And at that point in time, I'll have an answer for your second question.
Okay.
Mr. Moderator, I believe we are ready to return to our discussion of items 0607 and the substitute motion that was put before the body.
Okay. We return now to that item, and can we have that on the screen? And we had postponed this to this point to give time for the Advisory Committee on the Constitution to discuss this. I will turn to our clerk.
Mr. Moderator, the Advisory Committee on the Constitution has no additional information to add as far as to the constitutionality of this business. Robert's Rules of Order, Chapter 10, page 111, Section 5. No main motion is in order that conflicts with the corporate charter, constitution, or bylaws, except, of course, when you're amending those. Because this substitute motion does not change G 10503, where it would need to be changed in order to make the rest of it possible, I would advise you that it is out of order.
Hearing the advice of the parliamentarian, of our clerk, as chair, I rule that this motion is out of order.